think we have to talk about the Jalen Green contract immediately up top, because all these contracts to me, when they break, I usually go, that sounds about right. Or I go, oh, that might be a little bit of an overpay, might be a little bit of an underpay. The Jalen Green one is the most confused I've ever been by. I don't get the deal at all. I don't understand. Okay, so here's the thing. If you're a big Jalen Green believer, you think Jalen Green could be an all-star. You sign him to a short-term extension, so even if you get quote-unquote value out of this deal, it's not particularly long value. And if you're a Jalen Green skeptic, like both of us are, then you're looking at this saying, why are you paying him $30+ million a year when he really has only proven to be a good NBA player for 1 month of his entire career? Like, he's never been an efficient scorer. He's not a good playmaker. He's not a good defender. What is Jay like? In the preseason, he shot very well. The shot creation looked good. The shooting looked great. Once again, another small sample. The assist to turnover ratio, he turned the ball over way too much. He was not playmaking again, blah, blah, blah. Even if you believe in Jalen Green, this makes no sense to me.
It's weird. I was trying to like think my way through it, like what the process could be. I feel like it's trade bait for like maybe next season. Like
that was the thing with him and Sengun.
Yeah, well, and I think with Jalen Green, like you kind of get this out of the way. I think that would be why you would have less years on the deal. He's probably not getting traded. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't think he can get traded this day trade deadline. It's like some poison pill. It would need to be like something else. So it would be like next off season. Mm-hmm. You create this big contract. You can kind of move around. Like Fred VanVleet is expiring. And will be gone. I think there's 1 more year of Dylan Brooks, if I remember correctly. Is it a 3 year?
3 more years of Dylan Brooks.
That was a 5-year deal?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What is that? $20 million a year? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Something like that.
Not terrible. But
VanVleet is a team option after the year.
Yeah.
Sengun is obviously, he has the one thing about the Sengun deal is that he has the Tyrese Maxey style thing where his cap hit is way lower than whatever his extension is going to be because of the fact that he was, the 17th pick in the draft, I think. So there's that element of it where a year from now, you might be able to carve out some cap space if you renegotiate Fred VanVleet's deal or let him walk because Reed Shepherd really pops this upcoming season. But once again, like you just put 30 million plus on the books. 33 million next year for Jalen Green. Yeah, 4 years, 86 for Brooks. So he has this year, next year, and the following year. So I just don't get it at all. Like, I get the argument that they need salary to trade, but you're 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when are they trading that salary? Is my question here. Because if you look at it from the perspective of, well, we want to make a star trade, like let's say Devin Booker asks out next summer.
Yeah.
Okay, why would Phoenix want to? Phoenix is already in piss and shit financially. Why would they ever want to take on Jalen Green's contract unless Jalen Green really pops off this year? And if that's the case, how much does he have to pop off for you to trade him for a star? Like if he pops off, then he's on a value contract. Or do you really want to trade him for a star? This is where I'm so confused on it. It makes no sense from a team perspective to me at all to make this deal.
Yeah, and I don't even think like he was a high draft pick, so like he does. I think he makes $12 million this year on his deal. Mm-hmm. But like you're not even getting like the benefit because sometimes when guys are like have bigger deals, the deal you like renegotiate them to is bigger than their cap hold. That's not the case here with Jalen Green's. So, why would you not just...
It is the case because Jalen Green would have had like a $40 million cap hold next year. He was the second pick in the draft.
I thought it was just 1.5 times whatever did they change the rules on that in the CBA?
There's no way that it's not a huge cap hit. This is going to be less than whatever his cap hit would be.
Are you sure? Because I feel like it's 1.5 times, which would be for him like $18 million, $20 million.
No, that was Tyrese Maxey's this past year, and he was the 21st pick in the draft.
His cap hold was 20 million. They must have changed how that used to work.
Yeah.
He used to be 1.5 times.
No, it's entirely different now. This is less money than his cap hold for next year. So that, if you want to make that argument, okay, it's less money than what his cap hold is next year. What meaningful cap space can you get to with Sengun's contract? But if you have Sengun's, you have Brooks' contract on the books, you have even a renegotiated less per year deal with Fred VanVleet. You have too much money on the books. Amen Thompson was the top pick. He'll make a decent amount of money. How much cap space can they even carve out? This is what I don't get.
They have like a little bit of room, but like they've re-signed. I'm like it's very annoying that there's not a good. We used to have Basketball Insiders, which had like perfect. Eric Pincus would do their cap sheets. There's not like any good cap sheets anymore, which is the real problem here with trying to like figure some of this stuff out. Everyone's like information is wrong. The cap holds are fucked up. If I'm looking at this right, because Steven Adams has one more year. Jeff Green also has one more year, and then like Jayshawn Tate will be back. They've got $126 million with Fred VanVleet's team option. So now that Jalen Green has $30 million plus whatever Sengun's cap hold is going to be, so I think his is probably going to be like $20 million. I think so. 140, 150. If you're, you can get some cap space if you don't bring Fred VanVleet back. So maybe that's the plan, is to upgrade like the Fred VanVleet spot. But then again, who are you getting on like the free agent market? And a lot of like players, their deals are big enough now where like 44 million, it's kind of hard to fit that in a trade into that cap space, because you have to fit it into that cap space. If you don't want to send out like matching salary. So it's not like the worst deal in the world. I mean, if cap holds are 2.5 now, then that makes a lot more sense to me. Because you do decrease that number a little bit. You get yourself like a little bit more wiggle room. You're not trading him this year anyway. So next year it's going to be a 1+1 when you're trading it. And that could be valuable either way, like even if that's expiring and he, like, let's say he balls out this year, I'm not going to hold my breath. If he balls out this year, you're not getting like a ton of plus value. But also, this kind of tells me that the Rockets don't really have him in his plans, because what they're doing is they're kind of trying to make this deal appealing to other people for trade bait, essentially, is what I think. So
I still am like, what? Okay, let's say we live in the greatest world possible, and Jalen Green makes the leap and is in the All-Star conversation next year. Okay,
sure.
What team is like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to trade for this guy who can be a free agent in 2 years? Like, we're gonna have to turn around and pay him instantly. Like, look, I just don't get why they wouldn't have waited until next offseason to make some kind of move, unless they were saying that they want to instantly trade him next offseason.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
That it is, I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. And again, unless the CBA changed it, the experience buckets for what your max is change between 6 years and 7 years. So if you take 2 years, you're in the 6 years of experience bucket and you have a 25% max. If he picks up that last year, he moves himself into the 7-year max category and would then qualify for the 30% max. So
none of this. He hasn't been good in his career, and he's making $33 million a year. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't think it's like necessarily like a good deal. They got themselves like a little bit of like flexibility. He's not going to live up to that contract, like almost certainly. Yeah. But I can see talking yourself into it where it's like, okay, because this speaks to me like Houston has decided, no, we're not doing anything with Jalen Green. What we need to do is we need to re-sign him to a number where we
half measure, basically.
Yes, where we protect the asset, where it's not going to be too toxic. We can like move it to someone else if we need to,
Mhm.
but then we can also get like not a lot of value, but we can get some value if he really balls out. You know what I'm saying? Like you end up in the Toronto Raptors OG Anunoby situation. You know what I'm saying? Like where you can get something back. It's not going to be as good as if you would like had full maxed him and then he would be good. And the reason I think it's a smart bet of them to play it that way, or smarter than like full maxing him for like a full 4 or 5, because obviously I don't think that that's very likely. So like I see it. I think it speaks to, it tells me that they're going to want to trade him next offseason and they're going to be looking at deals for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of dumb. Maybe it's because we've never seen a deal like this before. Player who's underperformed, not lived up to the hype at all, except for literally 1 month of his third season in the NBA last year, third season. Where, as we've discussed plenty of times before, March has basically been proven to be the fakest time in the NBA. Every single year, there's always 1 or 2 guys who really pop off during that month. No, to be fair, they don't reach the heights that Jalen Green reached. Like, I don't even like when like Davion Mitchell or Obi Toppin or RJ Barrett or Josh Jackson or whoever have balled out for a team in the past. They haven't reached the levels that Jalen Green reached during that like 3-week span where he was cooking and he looked incredible. I get the appeal if you really like him. It's just normally when these guys sign these deals, they're long from the team perspective, they're usually longer term deals if you think that the guy hasn't lived up to what you think he is as a player, if that makes sense to me. And I just think that there's this mindset around the league with young players that they always get better, and that that the progress will continue to be, on a straight line upward, as opposed to where we've seen throughout Jalen Green's career, it's been very up and down, mostly down. Like, he hasn't really performed at the level that anyone thought he would have pre-draft. He has not been, like I said, not nearly enough efficient as a scorer, as a passer. He's certainly shown flashes. He's certainly shown talent, but it's kind of like, how like, I just said this yesterday with Josh Allen in the NFL, where he wasn't a particularly productive college quarterback, but he showed these flashes and these tools that he could be an elite NFL quarterback. And then he panned out and turned into an elite NFL quarterback, which then made teams turn around and start drafting the Zach Wilsons, the Anthony Richardsons, those kind of guys. I think the NBA correlation for that is Devin Booker, because Devin Booker through 2 or 3 seasons was kind of in a similar bucket to the Jalen Green types. I think by year 3, he was a little bit better, but the difference is that the majority of guys that look like Devin Booker in their first few years in the NBA and produce at the level that he does never turn into Devin Booker. He is an outlier in this history of these, young guards that are on bad teams that produce at below their expectations, despite putting up these like eye-popping numbers. And then he turns into, an all-star, an all-NBA player, one of the best players in the NBA. But regardless, most of the guys that are in that same mold don't ever turn into him. Like, he is the exception, not the rule.
Well, but the thing is, I think the reason that they didn't give him the years and why I think it's for trades is because I think they know he's not good. is the
then
thing.
Why would you pay him $30 million a year? That's what doesn't make sense.
Because you have his contract, because I think they recognize that they have a target window here. Because Sengun, who was their it's not, is it, what's next draft? Is Tari Eason, and like next year it's going to be Jabari and Tari Eason. Like, their team is going to get expensive quick. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to thread the needle here. Like, I'm guessing they're probably going to, unless there's like literally no one on the market, they're probably going to decline Fred VanVleet's team option. The $30 million gives them a little bit of wiggle room. Because like right now, if they decline Fred VanVleet's option, they'll have $40-ish million next offseason in cap space with Jalen Green. So you can sign someone, and then you still have Jalen Green's contract to be the big buoy thing to sneak in one more guy before you pay Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason. That's going to move your cap up. You're going to get into the luxury tax and some of these rules that come in this new CBA where there's things like you can't salary match, you can't do this, and it gets harder to make trades. So I think that what the Rockets have done is they have identified, okay, we're pretty good. We've got all these young guys in the door. We've got Reed. We've got all this other stuff. This next offseason is our last chance to do something with this. Now, they could have just not signed him to anything and like let him play it out. But then next offseason, though, you do have a higher cap hold. I looked it up. It's if you're above average, it's essentially 2.5 times. So 2.5 times 10, 12 million. Because it's based off NBA average player salary. It's 300% for below average, and I don't know what the fucking player salary average is. But you could do all of that stuff. But the problem is that like if you just waive Jalen Green and there's not a player that you can fit who has the same skill set Jalen Green has, and then he just walks at that point, or you like try to re-sign him, it's gonna impact some of your stuff. And this way, my
question for you is, what a year from now, if they want to open up cap space, Fred VanVleet is gone.
Yeah,
Fred VanVleet is currently their best player. This is what I'm trying to get at. The cost of retaining Jalen Green at this number. Here's why I hate it. The cost of retaining. What if Jalen Green sucks next year?
He's gonna.
Okay. Then if he sucks, then this is a disaster because then you have no road to cap space that is meaningful, is my point. You have no road to cap space because you just said they could open up $40 million if they let Fred VanVleet walk, right?
Yes.
But if Jalen Green sucks, you can't let Fred VanVleet walk.
Okay, but here's the thing. What are you going to do with cap space with Fred VanVleet and like not Jalen Green? Because then you're re-signing another guy who's like, I guess maybe better than Jalen Green, but who are you signing for this Houston Rockets team? Like you just said, Fred VanVleet's their best player. What this fucking Rockets team needs is a real fucking stud. Like they need a real number one option. They have all the fucking they're backwards from a lot of these teams. They're kind of like the Pelicans where they have all the ancillary shit. They've got Tari Eason, they've got Amen Thompson and like Reed and all of these guys who are going to be really good playing around a really fucking good player. Even like Sengun can kind of have some of that. That is what they're big game hunting. They're not trying to go out there and sign like Marcus Smart or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that is not what they're doing. They're trying to keep a max cap space thing open to try to get someone. And if that is not available in free agency, and let's be clear, it's probably not going to be, then you just keep Fred VanVleet and then you can trade Jalen Green and some of your young guys with salary for this $60 million player. Now, is it a negative contract? Yes, but you don't care about sending out Jalen Green. If you don't have Jalen Green on this contract, you're stuck like trading like Jabari Smith and some of your other actually good young players. Like I guess Dylan Brooks or something like that. But a team that's trading away their superstar is not going to want fucking Dylan Brooks.
That's fair. And I do just want to point out, I think what Germ is saying here is kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah.
The Suns would be hard capped at the first apron next year if they were to get Jalen Green back in a sign and trade for Devin Booker. So the Suns can't avoid the first apron next year. So let's say that scenario plays out where Devin Booker's available in the year. The Rockets have all of the Suns picks that they just got in that swap trade that they just did with the Nets. And Devin Booker's like, I want out of Phoenix. Now, if Jalen Green continues to show progress and shows some promise, then I guess if you are the Suns, you can then take on that contract and say, let's see if Jalen Green's worth, a gamble on here. We take Jalen Green, we get our picks back. And if we suck, it doesn't really matter because, we need to rebuild this thing anyway. And part of the reason why we both really liked the the Nets for Suns pick swap that the Rockets did prior to the Mikal Bridges trade was the fact that those Suns picks are going to have so much more value specifically to the Suns. And if you and now you could talk me into, okay, a year from now, let's say Jalen Green's trending positively, the Suns get all their picks back, and then they throw in 2 more of their other young guys for Devin Booker. Then, okay, Fred VanVleet, Sengun, Devin Booker, plus, I don't know, can they keep Reed or whoever, Amen, if they don't have to involve them in the Devin Booker trade, then you might be cooking. You might be working with something where you build a good veteran core with a good young core that has potential to win 50 games in the Western Conference and win multiple playoff rounds. That I get. Now this is making more sense to me. Jalen Green just wouldn't have been the player I bet that on with. Is my thing.
Yeah.
Is that if I'm assuming they tried to get Sengun for a similar deal, and then Sengun's camp said, "Why don't we play this out for one more year and see if we can then a year from now do what Maxey did and play himself into a max contract."
Right. Well, because he's like a max player. And the thing is, if you sign Sengun to a max contract, then you don't have any, then you have substantially less cap space if you
Well, it doesn't, not really, because it's his cap hold. It's the same thing as the Maxey deal.
No, but you could, no, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying though. If you were to resign, if you did him instead of Jalen Green, Jalen Green's cap hold is way fucking bigger than Sengun's.
Sure.
Because he was a number 2 pick versus the 61. And then you would still have that. You would then still also have the Jalen Green cap hold.
Right. It is advantageous. It's advantageous for the Rockets to wait to try to get, even if Sengun plays himself into a max, his cap hold is so low that it doesn't function like a max.
No.
It functions like an MLE and a half deal, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. So I think that Jalen Green, they identified Jalen Green as our young guy that we are the least attached to. He's got a little bit of, let's make him the buoy, flotsam salary. And then, because I think you're right. I think that they're targeting Devin Booker. That's why they went out and got those fucking picks, those Rockets, or why they went out and got those Suns picks from the Nets and gave the Nets their picks back, because that's what they want to do. They want to make that presentation to them. Here, you guys fucking suck. Kevin Durant's 1 billion years old. Bradley Beal stinks. Yeah. Here's Jalen Green, and then pick your 2 young guys. Do you want Amen? They would probably fight hard to keep, they would probably want to keep Reed, Amen, and Sengun, but you're probably going to have to give up at least one of those guys.
Sure.
And then
it is Devin Booker. Even if Jalen Green is makes a massive leap between this year and next year, the odds of him ever reaching current prime Devin Booker, it's incredibly low. And you're going to have to give up real things to get him in a trade. And I think it would have to probably include, my guess is that it's probably Jalen Green, one of Reed or Amen, and then those picks.
Also, I also just realized they're not going to have salary cap space next year, because either way they've got Sengun's cap hold, which is going to be 300% on 5, which is 15 million, which is a pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
and it's also not the difference between the Sixers cap space plan and this one is that the Sixers already had Joel Embiid on the books, and then they had this road to getting that money for Paul George. There isn't a Paul George in the next class.
No.
The odds of an unrestricted free agent hitting, unless you're really into the idea of Jimmy Butler, and it's hard to make that work in this scenario because they already have too much other money on the books to really make that work. So yeah, I don't know. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I do think there's downside to these next 2 years are so important for the Rockets rebuild, because we both like the direction that they've been trending in. In fact, I've completely reversed course on this front office. I said a year ago when we ranked the front offices, I said I would give this front office a D with potential to get to a B. And now I think this last year, especially as these young guys have developed, as the vets have looked like they've kind of fit in, Steven Adams is a savvy move. Fred VanVleet turned out to be a good vet for that team. They definitely made that jump from a D front office to a B front office for me. But the thing is that this next 2 years is so important for taking them from fun, upstart, competitive team to like actual contender. And if Jalen Green just has the same year he had last year, let's just say he has the same exact year.
Sure.
I don't think anyone in the NBA is touching that contract, even if it only has 2 years on it. And it's because it has that player option on the 3rd year. And by the way, this contract doesn't kick in until after this upcoming season. So it's 3 years after this. So it's not like this year is included in this deal and then in 2 years from now it's expiring. Like, this doesn't expire for 3 more years. So I don't know. There's a risk as we look around the NBA at these teams and how these extensions are being handed out right now. I think teams are a little bit scared to go all like, now the max guys were still the max guys, whether you agreed with those max contracts or not. But these B tier contracts that are non-max deals, the teams are a little bit hesitant to hand these out right now. And I think they want to see how the second apron stuff plays out before they're handing out $35 million a year deals to non-all-stars.
Yeah. I think the thing is, like Germ said, that like you can't, sign and trades are not as viable because like so much of the league is over the fucking tax.
Yeah.
Like literally like half the fucking league is over the tax. And like, I think it's like 9 teams are over the fucking, the second apron too, which is like really bad. So I just think that teams are looking around and realizing we've got to have money on our books, like somewhere, and I think that what they're betting on is that Jalen Green, by virtue of like being 23, is going to be like more appealing to a team looking to take a swing. It's going to be more appealing to do like $30 million of like Jalen Green versus like 50 of Brandon Ingram or like, 60 of Zach LaVine, especially if you're like a rebuilding team who's bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, are the Nets going to be willing to like, take him on at some point? I think their plan for this is the Suns plan that Jerm brought up. Like, I do think that's like what the plan A is here. But even if that doesn't come to fruition, I think that they bet that they can like send a Jalen Green to like the Washington Wizards and the Nets, and they're not going to like demand a king's ransom, because unlike some of the other stuff that they're going to be taking back, he'll actually be like a good-ish, like you can squint and talk yourself into a 24-year-old guard with like high volume, like being something, so.
I mean, look, the Warriors got off the Jordan Poole contract easily.
Yeah.
We could be sitting here in a year from now talking the same way about this deal. I mean, honestly, to that point, Jordan Poole had proved more than I guess that's not technically true. No, it is true, because they won the championship the year before. Yeah. Now, Poole didn't play all that much. Like, he was in and out of the rotation in the playoffs. Like,
he had a playoff game though.
His minutes fluctuated, but he did ball out for an extended period of time at the end of that year into the playoffs for a chunk. I don't think this has just a little bit of just these extensions in general. Like, what does the Kuminga deal mean for, what does the Kuminga deal mean for the Warriors? Like, Kuminga not getting a deal. What does Sengun not getting a deal mean for the Rockets? I don't really think it means much, to be honest. Yeah. We've talked about this ad nauseum. There's not a lot of cap space next summer. And even if a guy has a great year and gets the offer that you're not willing to give up right now, who's going to give him that money that you won't just turn around and match the deal?
Yeah.
So, like, if Sengun makes the All-Star team this year and a team throws a max contract at him next summer, the Rockets will just match that. Yeah. Match it. Or if Kuminga has an awesome year and gets $30 million a year, I think the Warriors would probably match it. I mean, we haven't really seen that since Ayton. Is the one thing, is that like it doesn't happen all that often.
Here's the other thing. There's like 2 teams with fucking cap space.
That's what I just said. Yeah. Yeah.
Like it just like nobody's gonna spend their fucking their cap space, lock it up for two or 3 days, waiting for the other team to like match the offer sheet. Like there's no fucking upside and everyone's going to match it. Yeah. Like you just said, the Ayton thing, it's got to be a player like that for it to like be worth it. Cause you got to like make the team think about it. Guys like even I'm not like a giant Kuminga guy, but like, I don't know, you're willing to like, fine, if we have to overpay a little bit because somebody offered that to him. Sure.
A year from now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's just not gonna happen. So yeah, I think it's probably a pretty safe bet by these teams that don't have to make moves. I think the reason that the Rockets specifically did that is because they're scheming. They have like plans for next offseason.
Yeah.
And they're like lining their shit up. So
okay, so enough on the Jalen Green deal. Let's talk about the next guy that was selected in, I think he was the 5th pick in the draft. Jalen Suggs got a 5-year 150.
Yeah.
Wait, it was 5 years 150?
Yeah.
5 years 150 for Jalen Suggs. What did you think about that? So about $30 million per year for Jalen Suggs.
Jalen Suggs is one of my guys.
Yeah.
I love him. Felt like that was a little high.
Mm-hmm.
That said, sometimes when I think a deal is a little high, it ends up being fine. It usually ends up when my knee-jerk reaction to a contract for a guy who is like realized, a guy who is like a genuine player, the way that Jalen Suggs is. Like I've watched Jalen Suggs play good basketball. I very rarely do I like if my initial reaction is, "Ooh, that's a little high." Am I like, "Yep, that was too high"? It usually ends up being fine. It's like, "Yep, that was like a normal contract for Jalen Suggs." So,
I think one of those deals where when it broke, I was like, I really didn't have like a strong reaction either way. Like, I can't imagine a world where Jalen Suggs outplays this contract, and I can't imagine a world where this contract's a disaster for the Magic or for like, I think it's about right for both sides. Like, it's like 17% of the cap. He's their 3rd best player on the team, I think, behind Paulo and Franz. Yeah, I mean, like, I think he's probably their 3rd best player. Elite defender, one of the best point of attack guys in the league. Certainly, if the shooting is real, which we have like 100 game sample of him shooting 40% from 3 on pretty decent volume. If he can shoot in that high 30s, low 40s from 3, add in the fact that he's a really versatile defender that, can do all the stuff that we just talked about. I tend to fade guards who aren't great creators in the half court when it comes to getting paid a ton of money.
Yeah.
But he is about as good at everything else that you could kind of talk yourself into.
Sure.
To really be willing to justify this much money. But once again, like, I can't see Jalen Suggs returning $40 million value. I can't see him returning $20 million value. I think this is just about right. Maybe a slight overpay, like you said, just because I think I've talked about this before. There's very few teams in the NBA where they have the luxury to start defensively tilted guards.
Yeah.
And the Magic happen to be one of those teams, I think, because you're betting on Paulo and Franz.
Yeah.
You have when I did this ranking, this was actually to me to justify when we traded away Jaden Springer and why Jaden Springer would never become a starting level NBA player.
Yeah.
I was doing a little bit of a cope session, but proved probably to be true. I talked about like Alex Caruso, Jalen Suggs, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Funny enough, 5 of those guys have been on the Celtics or Magic. 1 is now on the Thunder. The teams that have these guys, that have the luxury to start these guys, are usually the best teams in the NBA. And I think the Magic see themselves long-term as Paulo and Franz to continue to progress to get better as one of those teams. And as they grow into that, they're fine giving one of their guys they drafted, maybe if it's a slight overpay, whatever. But he seemingly seems like a great locker room dude. Seems like he's a big part of their core. And if you can shoot and defend, you're going to get paid a lot of money. Like those are the things that have proven to be the most important for staying on the court in the playoffs. Athletic guys who can shoot and defend. If you're a role player, there's potential for this deal to look completely fine and not even look like a slight overpay. But I'm not crazy about it either way. Like, I think it's fine.
Yeah, my concern is that I don't think I'm kind of bracing for a little bit of a shooting regression from like Jalen Suggs. I'm guessing he's going to be like 36% this year, which is still fine. Like that's still pretty good. But again, I think this will be fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that it's a contract that might be a little bit hard to trade, especially in the early years, but it's also like, why would you trade Jalen Suggs? You've got this young team. Everybody's going to be all your development. You expect it to be internal anyway. So when you think about it like that, it's fine. You know what I'm saying? The Magic are going to be good. They're not going to need to, I don't think they're going to be like shaking things up in like a big way for like at least 2 years. So I think it'll be
just to compare this to the Jalen Green thing, which Jalen Green is someone who you're betting on the future of. If you're the Rockets. Orlando knows who Jalen Suggs is.
Yeah.
But it's less important for them because they're locking in the core pieces around their best players.
Yes.
Whereas you've pointed out, the Rockets still are kind of hunting for who their core players are. They have a bunch of guys that might be able to pop and might be able to prove that they are that. Yeah. But this gives that at least in theory, what you were talking about, like, potentially trading for Devin Booker or someone else in that realm, gives them a little bit more flexibility in terms of we're kicking the can down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
The Magic wanted to lock in their core. I don't think that this puts any sort of ceiling on them. Like, I think that this is just this is what the normal paydays are going to look like for elite role players. And they're betting that Jalen Suggs is an elite role player. And he's shown at least for one season that he can be that. If you had told me this a year ago, I would have been mind blown.
Yeah.
To be honest, I would have been like, what the fuck? Jalen Suggs got how much? But he really did prove this last 100 games or whatever, that he can be a guy who is part of an elite defense, a big part of why they had an elite defense. And then on top of that is not going to take much off the table offensively. You would prefer for him to be a little bit more offensively tilted, just because so far in their careers, Franz and Paulo haven't proven that they can be like elite offensive engines by any means. But once again, this is a bet on these three guys. This is a bet on those three becoming part of this elite two-way team that when you get to the playoffs, you're hoping that Franz's shot balances out. He did go 0 for 7 in the preseason. I don't know if you saw that, Sam.
No.
So Franz did not make a single three in preseason, which not a great start.
That's 7 shots. That's not what you want. It's also 7 shots. That's like a
7 shots in preseason, but still, I would like to see Franz start making threes again, because even if Jalen Suggs is proven to be like a pretty decent shooter, you're going to want everyone to be able to really open up the floor for Paulo, because if anything, once again, all of these contracts, the Franz max, the Suggs contract, all that shit, this is all a bet on Paulo Banchero being like eventually growing into a very good offensive engine, which he has not proven so far in his career. He's also coming out of his second season. He's 6'10" with a point guard handle, seemingly
huge. He's so
big. Like,
he looks bigger than 6'10" sometimes. Like, he's just so fucking strong too. Like, I think it's a solid bet, to be honest.
Yeah. He's a good playmaker. You're hoping that the efficiency can balance out over time. And once again, at a minimum, they're going to be an elite defensive team for the next 5 years. And if you're an elite defensive team, that I do think that you can get by with a little bit of offensive deficiencies. And still in this Eastern Conference where we've talked about it, like eventually the Sixers will age out. The Bucks already look like they're aging out. Like Middleton's out to start the season. For the Sixers, Paul George might be out to start the season. The Celtics aren't going to last forever. This young core with the Magic might be next up. The Knicks don't look like they're unbeatable. Like a lot of their cores already in their prime. So I think that it's at a minimum, it's an interesting conversation. I think that good for Jalen Suggs to play himself into this contract after his first year in the league. If you had told me this, I would have said there's no fucking way. There's no way. Like, he looks so bad after his rookie season, and he's come so far offensively in the last 2 years that I don't mind betting on him continuing to get better and becoming one of the elite role players in the NBA. And I think 2 or 3 years from now, look, we just saw what OG ended up. I know OG's a wing, so it's a little bit different when you're a wing, especially when you're a playoff level 2-way wing. You're going to get a huge bag, but like, I think we're going to see more and more, like, as we move forward, as the cap gets bigger, we're going to see more contracts that just kind of blow you away. Like, oh my God, that guy got $40 million a year. That's just the direction we're headed in. So it is possible that 2 years from now, we're looking back at the Suggs contract and going, actually, that was a pretty good deal. I'm still just like, it's fine, but yeah.
It usually goes down that way. Like, honestly, like, a lot of the time I look at these deals that these guys get, and I'm like, when my reaction is it's not great, it's a little bit high, I'm usually wrong. Like, it usually ends up being like a pretty good deal. So like, that would be the thing. The thing I was reacting to was Jake Fisher reported that Jalen Green's contract has a 10% trade kicker. So I don't know what the fuck I don't know what the fuck that is.
So okay. So, well, to be fair, a lot of contracts have trade kickers. Max deals are usually the ones that get them. So this is a great. Did Sengun come through?
Let's see. Let's find out. I don't see it from Shams. Did it come through?
Why did you write Sengun in all caps?
You can't do this while we're in the middle of a slop sensitive area.
There you go. 5 years, $185 million.
Wow. Okay.
So 185 divided by 5, that's 37 a year.
That's a max, I think.
So the cap space we just discussed. God damn it! Why did we do this?
Yeah,
it's completely pointless now.
Well, it was pointless. It was only going to be. I realized that there was still a Sengun cap hold, so it was only going to be like 25 anyway. You know what I'm saying? So
Jalen Green is a $35 million trade exception, basically his contract.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Like, really, that is like what they're doing. But like, I just don't understand why you would put the fucking trade kicker in there.
Okay. Let's talk about Sengun.
Okay.
Sorry, Trey Murphy. We're going to have to hold off on that one for a second. Okay. So $37 million a year for Sengun. I don't know how to feel about this because I think that from a production mode, let's put it like this. Cade Cunningham got 5/224. So did Mobley. So did Barnes. So did Franz Wagner. Sengun has been just as good, if not better, than all of those guys.
I was just going to say, he's been better than all of them besides maybe Scotty and like Franz 2 years ago. So here's the thing. Sengun has been better than pretty much everyone's stated on that list. And he's getting about $40 million less, $40 or $50 million less. There's a player option on the last year. So for the Rockets at $37 million a year, now look, he's a player that we've gone back and forth on in general. I think because we've talked about, like, if you're not that Jokic level elite creator as a big with some defensive deficiencies, it is a hard needle to thread. But the Rockets seem like the team that might be able to do it because they have all these athletic guys around him. Yeah.
They have guys that are going to cover up for some of his weaknesses in a way that, like, I think the guy that he always gets compared to is Sabonis. Production-wise, he's already pretty similar to Sabonis. He's way better than Sabonis was when he was 21, by the way. Yeah. Like, his stats, everything has shown that he is on a track to be better than Sabonis.
Yeah.
And Sabonis has made all NBA teams, even if you feel like he puts a ceiling on your team, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, and then they've already done a pretty good job of putting these pieces around him, I think this is a nice piece of work from the Rockets. Like, if we just assume, once again, I don't always want to assume line always goes up with young guys because sometimes, you know, they hit a ceiling when they're 23 or 24. But if you're betting on a guy that, I think if he were the 7th pick in the draft, we wouldn't even be having, like, he would have been a no-brainer max. But because he was drafted with pick 16 or pick 17, wherever he went in the draft, then I think the fact that he is in that class lost him a little bit of money, but also he wants to be in Houston. Like, I don't hate the idea of betting on a guy who was an MVP of the Turkish league when he was 18 years old, instantly pretty solid in the NBA, trending towards like all-star conversation like this last year. The thing for me here is like, how do they still haven't picked who they're going to build around it. Is the Sengun Jalen Green thing going to work? Or is this just, is this them showing they're fully committed to Sengun with this 5-year deal? And then, like you said, with Jalen Green, they're more likely to float him and trade him a year from now or 2 years from now, and then really go further in on the Sengun fit.
I think that's probably what it is. I think that they are like figuring out, because here's the thing that the Rockets have that like 90% of the league does not have. They're actually like pretty set at wing and have like some young guys at wing who can still. Amen Thompson is like very interesting. I don't know if he'll ever be able to, like, to shoot, but like he gives you like some defensive, like I feel like he could be like what Sean Marion is, like his floor or something like.
I would say floor, but I mean, I think would be a nice outcome. Sure.
Right. Like he could be someone like that. Jabari is like, you don't want, he's basically like super Harrison Barnes, but like if you can get Harrison Barnes, who's like a better defender than Harrison Barnes, like a more actualized version of Harrison Barnes, that's actually a pretty good player. You like Tari. Reed was our guy in this draft.
Yeah.
Right? And like they've got a lot of like, Sengun would be a weird fit on like a lot of teams. My question would be like, how are you going to build around him? But the Rockets do have a lot of like young answers in house that have like a good, and they have enough of them that they can kind of mix and match and like figure out who plays well with Sengun if like they end up deciding that he's their guy. And again, it's really not that much money. Like a 25% max is not that much money.
Yeah, and this isn't even a full max. This is below the max. So yeah. This is like, if I were the Rockets, my core would be Sengun, Amen, Reed, and then everything else is nice bonuses. Like, I'm lower on Jabari Smith than pretty much anyone outside of Rockets fans who actually watch the games. Because the idea of Jabari is like just so far from the reality. I love Tari as like a bench energy guy. I've always loved Tari, even though his game is, my thing with Tari is like,
I forgot Cam Whitmore too, by the way.
Cam Whitmore, yeah, sure. Yeah. Like they have, once again, a lot of interesting pieces. The thing about Cam Whitmore is that if you catch him on the right night, I've said this before, he looks like a superstar. Like the way that he moves at his size, his athleticism, his shooting touch, all that. There, it can get a little bit, they, once again, maybe I still don't love giving Jalen Green that much money before he's proven anything for an extended period of time. But maybe there is a little bit of the Raphael Stone's Innocence Project, only from the perspective of they still need to figure out who they're paying and who they're not.
Yes,
like, they still have they have the Jabari and Tari decision a year from now. They have the Cam Whitmore and Amen Thompson decision a year from that, and then they have they still are kind of in that middle ground of we want to give ourselves options, but we also have all of these. They have so much talent, but we don't know how any of it fits because Tari has shooting issues. Jabari kind of has everything issues. Like he's kind of up and down.
Shooting is like the only thing.
He's an average shooter. He's fine at shooting. I think he might get better, but like so far in his career, he shot like 34% from three. Like he's like whatever. Cam Whitmore is, like I said, he's a ball of energy. Tari's a ball of energy. Reed and Fred VanVleet, awesome, but like that's a really small backcourt. They have a lot of things to figure out. Like, can Amen Thompson ever become an average jump shooter? And like I said, my core pieces I would be building around would be Amen Thompson, Sengun, and Reed. And I think that they really have kind of built themselves to get to that point. And like, Cam Whitmore, maybe. Like I love him. The idea of him as like a ball of clay of a big wing who can shoot and score. He's a really good cutter. I know we joked about this recently, but Will's like, have you ever seen a good player where they cut? Like LeBron's an elite cutter, but no one ever talks about LeBron cutting.
Yeah,
because LeBron's actually good at real tangible basketball things. But I will say,
I used to say that with Avery Bradley. That was like my thing. I would always say, like, yeah, but Avery Bradley's like a really good cutter.
I used to say that with Matisse Thybulle. I was like, look at him, he's getting better with cutting. And that just means that they really suck on offense. But I will say this much. The difference is when you have a post-heavy big, it's actually the one scenario where cutting is an important skill.
Yeah.
Like Kelly Oubre for the Sixers this past year, Aaron Gordon for Jokic and the Nuggets. Like Cam Whitmore has really good feel to when he knows when to cut off of Sengun, and that will get him minutes playing next to Sengun.
Weren't the Amen Sengun minutes like nuts too? Like wasn't that like the 2-man lineups? I'm going to be fascinated. I am going to be on NBA.com just like fucking filtering 2-man like Rocket lineups and like 3-man Rocket lineups just to like see because
Two years ago, it was Tari and Sengun that had like a +5 net rating together or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though neither of those guys are 3-point shooters, like, which kind of goes against what we think when you want to build around a post-heavy big. Like, everyone has to be able to shoot. But I don't know. Like, if they can implement some movement in their system, I think instantly Steven Adams is like the best backup center in the NBA, maybe. Like, he's going to be a really good fit for them off the bench.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for this season, and I think locking in Sengun at this might be the Suggs thing where he lives up to the contract and it's nothing more, nothing less. I think that this has potential to be a real steal, though. I do like if we're just going based on like players' productions to this point in their career. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but there has been very few bigs that have ever had the combination of assists and points in the same way that Sengun has to this point in his career. And I think it's really important in the modern NBA, if you're going to build around a guy right now, I think that we're shifting into, I don't want to say we're post the spacing era because spacing is still so incredibly important to every team. And by the way, the Missoula Ball Celtics just won the fucking finals very easily. And they shot more threes than any team, and now teams are shooting even more threes in preseason. I don't want to say that we're past that point, but I do think that we're reaching a point where every team might be able to build their team in a different way to win, if that makes sense. Like, I think that they could break a lot of conventional wisdom and thought with this Rockets team. Like, they don't have a ton of the shooting that you would expect, a ton of the obvious, oh, that's the guy. It's kind of just a balance of really good guys. And I think that they're going to be a lot of fun, and they're going to probably, I hope they win 50 games this year.
Is everybody ready for this one? I'm about to get Trill's ass right now.
Yes.
So this is the guy who faded the Sacramento Kings, huh? Yeah, doing that little diatribe.
Maybe I'm wrong about the Kings. The only difference is that the Rockets have defensively tilted wings who can run. And if that's the case, that's the Memphis Grizzlies style low-hanging fruit, how we win 50 regular season games. Is there's going to be a fucking Tuesday in January where a veteran team shows up and the Rockets are just going to run all night and they're going to be like, we don't give a fuck about this. And they're going to steal some shit.
I'm very interested to see how, because we never got to see it in Boston. I want to see how Ime's boomership plays in a second year for a team and plays in that particular scenario where you've got a lot of young guys kind of fighting for money. That's going to be kind of a hard coaching job because there's going to be guys who are not going to be happy about their playing time. There's going to be guys who want to pay for some of their things. There's going to be the front office is going to expect, like, they're going to want Jalen Green to play. And I think we both agree that Jalen Green should maybe come off the bench, almost certainly come off the bench.
They just paid him $35 million a year.
Yeah.
Coming off the bench.
He should come off the bench. $35 million. That's part of the deal. You come off the bench for the $35 million. Reed I hope Ime has the balls like once he sees that like Reed is like that much better to just be like, okay, fuck this.
Well, this is the thing is that I was worried about them burying Reed a little bit, but
Yeah.
I do think that they want to ease Reed in, which is why they saw Fred VanVleet, which is why I think he'll be solidly in their rotation, but I don't think they want to put too much on his plate. They want to get him used to playing off of, and honestly, that's usually pretty good for players' development. Like throwing a guy onto a dog shit team where it's like, hey, you do everything, unless they're Luka Doncic, like there's very few guys who come out of that and look incredible. Like,
but the Rockets aren't bad though.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that I think they want to, for the first year, they want to do kid gloves a little bit with Reed, figure out who he is. And then look, if we're sitting here a year from now and they traded Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and picks for Devin Booker, I'm like slamming their championship odds. Like,
no, and I think that's the plan. I think they're gonna have to give up one of Reed. Well, not Sengun now, but like I think they're probably gonna have to give up one of Reed or Amen. And they would if the Suns are trading Booker, they're probably gonna want Reed because that's the like obvious.
You can't trade Reed. I want to see Reed with a good team. I don't want to see like it would be cool to have him on. To be fair, it would be cool to have him with like his own team because he would get to cook. But Jaden Hardy.
Oh my god.
Okay. 3 years, $18 million.
I mean,
all right.
Good contract. I mean, good contract with Jaden Hardy. He's an NBA player. $6 million a year for an NBA player is good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's go. So yeah. We'll see how it plays out with the Rockets. Just quick thoughts, like the Sengun contract for the Rockets, don't like the Jalen Green contract, but you've kind of talked me into the idea behind them kicking the can down the road a little bit.
Let me be clear. I was obviously being a contrarian. It's not a good contract. Like, I'm just kind of trying to explain what's going on there. Like, like the thought process. I don't agree with it. I'm just trying to like go into the mind palace of the Rockets front office.
Sam says we pay buckets, we pay problems, we pay ball don't stop. Sam has arrived. BDS. We call him BDS Sam, folks.
That's
we know that. Yeah, Sam always stands for BDS. So
that's true.
Unironically.
Yeah. Facts.
So all right, let's finally move on. I know our New Orleans Pelicans listeners have been like, get to the fucking Trey Murphy contract. By the way, New Orleans, if you want to go to New Orleans with us, let's get it. Don't forget, YKB live show. We're going to Pelican Sixers. We're partying in New Orleans for a whole weekend. Link is in the description. Buy tickets. Come hang with us for a weekend at the end of March. It's going to be a lot of fun. All the shit is down there. We already got a bunch of people that bought tickets. Yeah. Flying in from Philly, flying in from all across the country. Don't forget that. We are going to be going. We're going to try to get like 50 to 100 people to go down. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We will probably have some form of HBO documentary about this weekend in 2 to 3 years. You're going to want to be reminiscing on what happened that one weekend that they let 50 hogs take over New Orleans.
Yeah, you can be providing the details to the police about where I was last seen, where my body was washed up, how many stab wounds I had. Like, you could be the one giving them that report. So
if you want to be famous, you got to come on the YKB New Orleans trip with us at the end of March. Ooh. We're going to be hanging all weekend. Me and Sam are going Friday to Tuesday.
5-year 150.
Who?
Jalen Johnson, 5-year 150. They got away with it. Landry Fields might be good, folks. Landry Fields might be good.
I like the Jalen Johnson contract for the Hawks a lot more than I like the Jalen Suggs contract. I think this has $40 million upside.
I think that's a slam dunk. I almost don't see how that's bad. Like
that's a steal.
It's a steal
for the Hawks.
God, Landry Fields, you fucker.
He looked amazing in preseason. Jalen Johnson.
I love Shams coming through with the fully guaranteed. Like, yeah, Ice. Obviously.
So, okay, we have to talk about the Trey Murphy contract.
Let's get to Trey Murphy.
We talked about how we have to talk about Trey Murphy. 4 years, 112. So that breaks down to $28 million a year. He got less than $30 million per year when Jalen Green got 35.
I think that, but before we started recording, just Sengun and obviously the Jalen Johnson contracts I think that contract by far had the most upside. Because here's the thing with Trey Murphy. He has missed a little bit of time.
He's already out again, too. I will say, I understand locking up money for him, to be fair. Like, I understand him being like, I want to get paid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to risk this going into another year. What if I get injured again? Locking up the money's fine, but New Orleans really benefits from them combine. Like, speaking of Sports Drink, where we're having our live show, tweeted this earlier. They are going to be paying Herb Jones and Trey Murphy for a year $40 million combined.
That's fucking nuts.
To get two really good starters who have more potential upside and fit really well with what they're building.
They fit literally anywhere. You could put those two guys. That's part of the reason I always keep trying to make trades with the Pelicans, because they have two of the good wings in the NBA. There's 12 good wings in the NBA, and the Pelicans have two of them.
I think of all my picks, that one for next season, because I faded them a little bit because I hate the fit of the team. That one has the most potential to age poorly, I will say. Because if Trey comes back healthy, they, like you said, the wing play is important. Yeah. They don't have the bigs. I agree with that. But the wing play is so important that I don't think you can sell short how much that can help you win in the regular season. And all they have to do is get rid of Brandon Ingram, and I love this team. And Trey Murphy, once again, get rid of Brandon Ingram for Trey Murphy's sake. Let Trey Murphy cook a little bit. Let all of these, removing him from that team makes them so much better, even if they don't get a great return for him. And I think the Trey Murphy contract is I thought he was going to be one of the ones that I didn't like his extension, because I thought that he's gotten a little bit overhyped. He's a very good player, but I thought that the players that he was being compared to, there were lofty expectations for him. But to get him at $28 million a year, this is basically just a new version of the Cam Johnson contract from a year or two ago. And I think he has potential to be better than Cam Johnson.
Yeah, I think the biggest place where you and I disagree is I think and you're probably more correct on this, is that you think Trey Murphy's a little bit more he's a little bit more realized, whereas I think Trey Murphy has genuine. I don't know. I see guys bomb like that, and just have a shot that's completely unbothered. Yeah. It's so fucking hard to contest Trey Murphy's shot. And that he's fucking massive. He's got a quick trigger. It really does come down to me for him being hurt. That's the only downside really to this deal. Yeah. It's maybe he gets hurt. And I don't think he's a Rob Williams type risk or anything like that. I think he's just a guy who
he's just gotten nicked up a few times.
Yeah, he's just a guy who's probably going to play average 60 games a year, most years. So, but he's I love this contract. Obviously, I'm a huge Trey Murphy guy, but I love this contract for the Pelicans. I think it's perfect, and I understand why, like you said, Trey signed it, because again, he gets hurt a lot. So.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for both sides, more so than I think that it's a massive steal for the Pelicans. But as you said, someone just commented and said good wings are like having good offensive linemen. That's kind of the thing. It's if you have good offensive linemen and you have good wings, you're going to be a good team. And Trey Murphy at a minimum is probably a second wing. He might be a lower tier first wing. I don't think he has star upside. I do think he has elite role player upside. And that is something that's important for any team, especially when you can acquire a guy who's 6'9" that can shoot the shit out of the ball. He's going to be good for them for sure. This is a totally fine contract. You could even argue a slight steal for the Pelicans, but I understand why he locked up this money. And look, I think once Brandon Ingram's gone, I think they could be cooking with gas there. They just need a normal center, no Brandon Ingram, and I'm back in on the Pelicans.
Yeah.
I've been out on the Pelicans because I don't trust them injury-wise, and I hate their fit of their roster, but we're one move away from we're in March in New Orleans at the show, and they're, one of the top seeds in the West if they can kind of make some moves around the margin. So yeah, Trey Murphy, good player, by the way, massively outplayed his draft spot. This is got to be kind of brutal for the Grizz. All right, just the Grizzlies, before you do your bit here, the Grizzlies to have no good wings and have traded away the Trey Murphy pick, that's got to sting a little bit.
It's not good. Well, at least Zaire Williams is coming along on the Nets. Hold on. What's this? Hello? Yeah. Oh, it's 2025. Sam Sheehan. Hi, how are you? What do you mean we're still alone? Anyway, get to what you were going to tell me. Oh my. He says everyone's going nuts over the DeJounte Murray Jalen Green trade that just happened.
How does that trade make sense for either team?
It doesn't, but it's happening, according to him. So
I mean, to be fair, it's not like any of David Griffin's other trades have ever made any sense. He's just like, yeah, that guy's good. Go get him. And it's like, just get the deal done. No matter what the cost is. So we already have a different version of Brandon Ingram on the roster now with DeJounte Murray. What the fuck?
I'm gonna be so mad at Griffin if he fucks this up, dude. Like they just be normal. Like they just need to be normal. Why did they trade for DeJounte, dude? That's so bad.
But still, Herb, Trey, Zion, great core three to have.
Love that.
Those three are great. It's just the other moves that they need to figure out around that. So yeah, this is good. Let's talk about the Jalen Johnson contract. I think Jalen Johnson, I've talked about this. He's probably, if there has been one player in the NBA that has swayed my opinion the most in this last calendar year, I would say Jalen Johnson is the guy. I think I went from being like, yeah, he might be a nice whatever, rotational wing to oh, this guy could be an all-star and a two-way impact guy. And the thing that I was worried about is I do this every year with one guy in the offseason where I'm like, I did it with Anthony Simons a year ago where I was like, no Dame, he can cook, elite shooter. And then he turned out to just be pretty good, probably still the worst defender in the NBA.
Yeah.
And look, I don't think he's a bad player, but he's not an all-star or anything. No. And I always joke that the less basketball is played, the more Cade Cunningham and Jabari Smith stocks go up. I was worried a little bit about that with Jalen Johnson, where I was like, am I just doing this because he had a great game against the Sixers and because, the idea of him is so, amazing, what he could potentially be as a playmaking, scoring, two-way wing that, every team is looking for. He could rebound, all that stuff. And then in preseason, he looked incredible. He had multiple games where he was scoring incredibly efficiently from the field. Looks like he took another step on the offensive end. And I think I feel more strongly that I think that this deal, of every deal here so far, I think the deals that have potential to be the biggest steals for their teams are Sengun and Jalen Johnson. Those are my two that I'm locking in as have more potential to Sengun might return $50 million a year value. Jalen Johnson might return $40 million a year value. And they got them way below those prices. So for their teams, great. I understand why both of those players locked it in, especially Jalen Johnson, because it is kind of incredible when you look at his production in his first few years. If you never watched Jalen Johnson play and you just looked at his stats, you'd be like, how much did this guy get?
Yeah, no.
But watching him, you see it. See the potential for what he can be as an all-around Swiss Army knife type guy. And that's why I love this move for the Hawks. And I think Landry Fields clearly has some idea of what he's doing.
He's cooking. He's cooking. Honestly, I feel bad. The Hawks have done pretty good for the most part, in their front office work outside of notably trading Luka Doncic. But here's what I would.
There's actually one thing we're going to get to later that they did not do a good job of, but continue.
Well, the DeJounte Murray trade's obviously terrible, but I think again that came from ownership. We're both pretty sure. So Is Sengun's deal just like not a max? Like
It's below the max. It's like if you were to average it out over the course of a few years, it's about 40 million less than what the full max guys can get.
Huh. Seems like it's.
But he does have a player option on the last year. So if he lives up to it, he can opt out and just get that money later, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think Jalen, I think Alperen Sengun is like a max player. So like, yeah, any value there is good. I think Jalen Green is, or I'm sorry, not Jalen Green. Jalen Johnson is up there. Like, I think he's got a great deal, and I think Trey Murphy's got a really good deal too. All three of those deals, really, really good, awesome. Locking them in, I understand it. I think it's good. Honestly, a lot of the guys that I thought weren't going to, a lot of deals got done that I wasn't sure were going to get done.
It sounded like the deals, like the Jalen Johnson deal and the Sengun deal, were kind of on the fence. Jalen Green kind of came out of nowhere today. It seems like, I think that agents, especially those three you just mentioned, Trey Murphy, Jalen Johnson, Sengun, I think that agents saw what happened this past offseason. And they said, look, you're better than the Caleb Martins of the world, right?
Yeah.
But wouldn't you rather lock up a little bit more of this right now than take the risk of teams just basically having you over a barrel next offseason?
Yeah.
Where there's no cap space to go around. It's harder to do sign-in trades, like you said before. So even if you want to get paid, it's harder to make that money happen with these new apron rules where teams can't accept a ton of money back in sign-in trades.
Yeah.
So I think agents probably said, look, we'll take a little bit of a bass on this deal. And then when you obviously live up to this deal, the next deal, we're going to get you all the money that you possibly can get. And by the way, most of these guys, Trey Murphy, especially Sengun and Jalen Johnson, they're still like 21, 22.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're both 22 years old. So it's not like, 4 years from now when they're up for another extension, 3 years from now, whenever they're up for it, they'll be directly in their prime. They'll get a ton of money. And at the end of the day, look, you're still getting fucking $30 million per year. If you're Jalen Johnson, you're still getting almost $40 million a year. If you're Sengun, I think it's totally fine for.
Yeah, your life is different. Second contract money, you've arrived now. You're not just, paying off your things. You've buy your mom a house. You can do all the like stuff that you wanted to do. You're officially like a rich person now.
It's especially someone like Jalen Johnson, who was the 21st pick in the draft. Like, comparatively to what he's getting paid right now, this is such a leap up in terms of the money. So I think that it was I understand why he locked it up now, even though I think the Sengun and the Jalen Johnson contract are the most likely to be bargains for their team. So let's talk about the last two before we continue here. Moses Moody, 3 years, $39 million. Here's the thing with this deal. I actually think the Golden State front office really does know what they're doing. Like, I think that I've liked all the new front office moves that they've made. They haven't done anything huge. They've all been kind of margin-y style moves, MLE deals.
I mean, they didn't sign Clay, which I think Bob Myers, the fraud fucking loser, would have caved to that. He literally quit his job so he wouldn't have to do that. So
Moses Moody hasn't really played so far in his NBA career all that much. Steve Kerr seemingly hasn't loved him. The positives for him, he's a really good corner three-point shooter. He's a good team defender, and he's wing-sized. He's like a 2-3. The bad stuff with him, he's really slow. He's not super athletic. The point of attack defense for him is pretty bad. He's not a great passer. He's actually a pretty good guard rebounder, I will say that much, if you're playing him at the 2. The only issue that I have with this is that the Warriors they have so many guards now. I like Moses Moody enough that I'm like, this is $13 million a year for a guy that will probably be, a solid bench piece, fringe starter on some nights. That's fine. Like, he's a nice fifth guy to throw into lineups. Having said that, this team now has Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, Steph Curry, Pods, Moses Moody. And you've talked about the reason why you're worried about them. And one of the reasons why, even though I was high on them, I'm still a little worried, is that they're small.
Yeah.
And Moses Moody is going to play the 3 pretty much full time for them now because they have so many guards that it's going to be tough for him to get any minutes at the guard spots. And I like the idea of him more as a 2 off the bench than as a 3, just because like he gives you positive guard rebounding. And I think that you can work certain lineups if you have good wing defenders around him to cover up for some of his shit that he struggles with defensively. But like at the end of the day, it's a 3-year deal, $13 million, completely movable. He's shown enough, by the way, very, very small sample. I'm not making anything of this. His playoff shooting stats are fucking nuts. Dude, he's like Grant Williams. Like he shoots like 70% true shooting in the playoffs, which doesn't mean anything because he's only played like like he's barely played in the playoffs.
No, you've sold me. Because I have not been a Moody guy, and I thought this contract was a little rich, but there we go. That's the angle.
16-game player, Moses Moody. Yeah, he did have like 2 good games. He had one in the Dallas series when they won the championship. He came off the bench and hit some big shots.
Okay.
And then he had one, because I remember Warriors Twitter losing their mind and comparing him to Danny Green when he came off the bench in that game.
That's awesome. I love that.
When he was in his that was his rookie season. And then he's only played 150 minutes, I think. So 266 playoff minutes in his career.
It's not nothing.
And has a 3.6 BPM in the playoffs.
Let's fucking go. Yes.
That's kind of wild. But anyway.
Dude, that's 10 games. That's like 10 games of rotation minutes.
Yeah, like I'm a little bit biased because I like Moody in the draft. Like I just think like anyone who's wing size that can rebound and shoot is always going to have value on pretty much any NBA team. But also, what?
I'm laughing at Piss's comment, which is
he shoots under 30% from 3 against the Celtics in his career. Well, there you go.
There you go. Yeah,
that's why you haven't come around until now.
Yeah,
but now you know. Now you know. Playoff riser Moses Moody.
I'm growing and learning. I was gonna say this. I love this. This is a new angle because I like being on the side of the nepotism front office. I think they've done a good job. I think it's a good bet to not sign. You know, I'm sure we're gonna go there next, but Kuminga seemingly didn't get a deal.
Yeah,
I think
so. He's one of the guys. So. I do just want to throw this out there. If Moses Moody does ball out against the Celtics next year, we can say Moses split the C's.
There we go. Folks. Easy. There we go.
Anyway. So
I'm hold on. I got.
Are you cooking up a biblical reference?
Hold on. No, I'm going the other way. Harry Potter reference. If TMZ video surfaces of him being wild in the club, he could be Mad Dog 3030 Moody instead of Mad Eye Moody. Yeah, get it? Okay. I think I kind of nailed that one. Really stuck.
The Harry Potter fans will love that for you.
Yeah, Mad Dog 3030 Moody. There we go.
See him go to prison. So Kuminga did not get an extension. It is worth talking about the guys who didn't get an extension.
Yeah. The chat did not like that one, by the way.
Chat is throwing tomatoes at Sam.
Yeah. Nobody uses the snowflakes anymore. This country used to be good. This country used to be something.
Sam, famously a lover of America's past. So Kuminga didn't get an extension. I never expected Kuminga to get an extension, but I also didn't expect a lot of these guys to get an extension.
Yeah. No, we got way more than I thought.
I think it makes sense because what I would imagine is they were trying to offer him a scam deal. And he said, look, as much as I've never been a Jonathan Kuminga guy, even if the production looks better than when you actually watch him, the reason why I've never loved him for the Warriors is because the Warriors are like, you know, read and react. They play guys who can shoot a lot. They play guys who can pass a lot. That's not Kuminga's game. Like Kuminga is, you know, he is a bit of a ball stopper. I mean, Moses Moody is too, but he can actually shoot. So, you know, Kuminga's gotten better as a shooter. He's had flashes where I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I think he shot like 55% from 2 last year, if I remember correctly, at 21 years old. His on-offs, when you remove Clay and you just have Steph, Draymond, and Kuminga, their on-offs were off the charts. That probably speaks more to Steph and Draymond and how easy it is to play with them. But it is something that this Warriors team needs. Like, I actually think what they're doing right now, I love their pickups of, like, I like the Melton pickup. I like the Kyle Anderson pickup. The thing that they need the most, and they got from Buddy Hield in preseason that I don't think is sustainable, is they low-key need a second scorer. Because Pods is a glue guy, Draymond's a glue guy, Kyle Anderson's a glue guy, Melton's a glue guy. Like, they need a second guy with Steph, and Kuminga is really the only one on this roster, unless Pods just takes a massive leap as a scorer, which I wouldn't project for this upcoming season.
Yeah, probably not.
He really is what they need, but he also has been an awkward fit with the team so far. So this plays into kind of both of what they want. Like, Kuminga wants a bigger bag, and the Warriors want to see him do this for a full season. And a lot of people have asked me, does this mean he's going to get traded? I don't think so. But it certainly doesn't make it so that you can't trade him. Like, if they get to the deadline and Kuminga is not really fitting with what they want to do, he wants to go to another place, I wouldn't be shocked if they trade him for like a win now role player for this team. But I kind of think that this team already has enough role players. The thing that this team is missing for me is a second scorer. And I think he has the best chance to be that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard for me because, like, Kuminga, like, we've talked about, like, what the prognostication for, like, cap space around the league is, you know. Coming on the one side, you know, like, because basically you're betting when you're letting these guys go. I don't think that these cap space teams, I don't think that our guy is going to be the plan A. With Kuminga, that's the only thing, is I do think that, like, the Nets, for example, could talk themselves into, like, let's just give Jonathan Kuminga like $40 million. And like, just hope for the best. That said, I do think that it's like where they are in their, you can also just match that. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you lose that guy, you know. Worst case scenario, like, you end up overpaying for Jonathan Kuminga, and, like, maybe it's a little bit of a bad contract, but, like,
I think he'll always have value, is my thing.
Yeah. Like
I think any team could. I know this sounds weird after I just said the thing with Jalen Green. Here's the difference between Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga to me. Jonathan Kuminga is a wing.
Yeah.
And what did you just say? There's like 15 good wings in the NBA.
Yeah.
There's like 70 good guards in the NBA. Like, it's just positional value wise, it's easier for me to see a team talking themselves into Kuminga a year or two from now than it is for me to see them talking themselves into Jalen Green a year or two from now. That's just kind of how the league has worked the last few years, is that, like, teams overpay to trade for wings. They overpay in contracts for wings. Guards are, you know, more common. Like, you can find guards.
There's, like, the starters, like Derek White is, like, what, the 27th best guard in the NBA, and, like, he almost made an all-star team. Like,
yeah, like, I mean, it's insanely stacked when you think about guys that, like, we're sure Trae Young struggles to make the all-star team. Now, some of that is off the court shit, but some of that is just, like, how much guard talent there is. Like, in the East, you have Halliburton, Mitchell, Maxey, Dame, like, LaMelo when he's healthy, like, Halliburton. It's incredibly deep. So it's harder for me to see a team really talk themselves into trading for Jalen Green while he hasn't really proven anything, more so than it is for a guy like, and by the way, I've talked about this before, but, like, wings usually suck their first few years in the NBA. Yeah. Like, I don't even think Jalen Green was all that, or Jalen Brown was all that good until he was like 22 or 23.
Oh no, he was disastrous his, like, first year. Yeah, he, like, started showing, like, signs, like, his, like, I like would talk to myself
second or third year.
Year two, but, like, it kind of reminded me of, like, where Warriors fans are at with, like, Kuminga right now. But then, like, again, Jalen Brown and Kawhi Leonard are, like, unreal developmental.
Sure, I'm not saying I just have a gut feeling about Kuminga, And everyone will tell me I'm wrong, and everyone will tell me I have a gut feeling that Kuminga's just going to be good. And I know that he hasn't been perfect to this point in his career, and I know that he still has a long way to go, but like the flashes are pretty tantalizing. And honestly, I get a lot of like, he's not the shot maker that Jalen Brown is. That Jalen Brown turned into an amazing shot maker. Like, I don't think anyone can duplicate that. But I do get a lot of early Jalen Brown vibes when I watch Jonathan Kuminga. Like, I get like just like the raw athleticism, the talent, the rim pressure ability. And I think that that's just something you can't throw away. I understand why the Warriors didn't extend him. Like, I wouldn't have paid him $40 million a year right now. I would have just done what they did and just said, we'll wait until next year. And if you play up to that, we'll pay you a year from now. But I really do. I think that Kuminga is going to be like a good NBA player. I do. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm going to Zach Lowe. Look, I'm not saying he's better than Franz Wagner like Zach Lowe did. I'm saying that I think he said that like after like their first year in the NBA.
He should have got fired.
He's
I'm turning around on this. ESPN did what they had to do.
Sam pivoting to the Kendrick Perkins corner.
Perk would have never said that. Perk would have simply showed up to Franz Wagner's house and been like, "Hey, do you need a loan?"
Look, I know you're getting that max contract, but what if you can get that max contract right now?
What do you know what 30 APR means? No, you just speak German. Okay, just sign here.
Incredible. But someone just asked, how old is Jonathan Kuminga? He just turned 22 2 weeks ago. He's very young. Like, I don't know. I'm in on the Kuminga. I think that he'll have a breakout season and he'll get paid next offseason. But who's the only other guy that didn't get paid? Giddey. I'm thank God for Bulls fans.
I know.
They wanted $30 million a year. That guy's fucking delusional. Look, I know you have to value yourself for sure. That is just insane for Josh Giddey to ask for $30 million a year from the Bulls.
It's gonna hurt when that 35 comes through next offseason. When he just gets like the 49 true shooting percentage, 20, 10, and 8 stat line on this garbage time Bulls. Like,
insane.
Yeah.
In a world where Trey Murphy gets 28 million, Josh Giddey thinks he's worth 30 million. Incredible. He really does think he's a star. He's just completely delusional from the fact that he was brought up as this prospect and got drafted with the 6th pick in the draft. And look, man, if Sam Presti's given up on you, like, come on. Although I guess you could say that about James Harden.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah,
that was more of a money thing more than anything else, though. Let's be honest. Like Presti is the ultimate. Well, Giddey's the ultimate pervert. But
I mean, he gave up on Sabonis and Oladipo too.
For Paul George, who came in 3rd in MVP voting for the Thunder. They literally did, and then they turned him into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a bunch of picks. Like,
that was a great move.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like they did trade.
Yeah.
He had those guys in house. I'm just saying. Yeah. How many All NBA teams went out the door, and how many All NBA teams for the Thunder came back?
Yeah, that's how we should measure the success of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Giddey. I tweeted that earlier that Trey Murphy got 28 million per year, and Giddey thinks that he's worth 30 million per year. And then Piss, who's in the comments, tweeted at me and said, "You're saying the stuff that Josh Giddey wants isn't in line with what the rest of society believes."
He's not going to have the funds to go to the Giddey parties. No Giddey parties.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So just for fun here. Oh, by the way, I'm going to take a second here. Why don't you gloat about how great the Corey Kispert contract is while I do this? Because that's the last contract we haven't talked about.
Probably the best contract we've seen. Dropping kayfabe for a second, I do think that Corey Kispert, I think that this is I'm stealing from somebody. Somebody said this, I think it was Will, said it was basically the Denny contract again. But just for a guy who's like a little bit worse than Denny, is not as good of a defender, is a little bit more limited. But like, I really think Corey Kispert is going to be an important rotation player on a playoff team someday. Obviously not with the Washington Wizards, but and I think that this is a contract I would be trying to get, and a guy I would be trying to get in the door if, like, say I was the Bucks. I think he could really help the Bucks. I think he could really help a lot of these teams that really need the wing play, because again, there's like 15 good ones. Kispert is not one of the good ones, but he is the next tier. Like, he is the Sam's Club great choice value.
The Grayson Allen tier.
Yeah, yes, that's a good example. Like, Grayson Allen looked awesome next to like two superstars and Bradley Beal. I think Kispert could have a similar like upside for like a team. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he would be fucking awesome for the Lakers. I think he would be awesome for the Warriors could really use him. And I think he would slide in as 3. I think there's the Kings could really use him. There's just so many teams. The Grizzlies could fucking use him. All of these teams could use rotation level 3 who is good at quite a few things. And I know you think he's like horrific on defense. I think he's fine. I think he's like survives on defense. Would be okay.
I don't have a problem with this contract. I mean, I think to me, it's similar to the Moses Moody contract. I think Moses Moody has a bit more defensive value than him. Kispert's a better offensive player. And I think that it's fine. It's a bench player contract. $13 million a year for a bench guy is fine. And it's also the fact that you look at where they're at in their rebuild and they need shooting. Like, shooting is important for rebuilding teams. That is just a fact. To have spacing, we've talked about this ad nauseum with the Pistons. They finally can figure out, because they have Malik Beasley now, because they have Simone Fontecchio, like, they finally can figure out a little bit what these guys are. And they didn't have that luxury before. The Washington Wizards having shooting and an offensively tilted guy here will help them in the next few years. I don't really think he has value to a playoff team, but I do think that he has value to a rebuilding team. So, all right, let's for some fun here. Let's revisit some of these contracts from past years, because I think you're going to get a kick out of a few of them.
Let's go. I've been really excited for this.
All right. This is 2018 draft deals, their extensions. So the 2018 draft class that were signed before the deadline, this would now be 3 years ago. So here's deals that did not age well, and one's going to break your heart. Michael Porter Jr., 5-year max deal. That's a tough one to swallow. Look, they won a championship. Who cares? But compare it to the other max contracts in the class. SGA, Luka, Trae Young. The only other guy from that class that got a max contract was Michael Porter Jr.
I will say this. That's a pretty fucking stacked class.
Insane class. I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
It is kind of surprising that they made that bet when they made that bet, though. Because remember, he missed his whole rookie season. Yeah. He re-injured the back. Like, he had to have back surgery. They're lucky that it turned out as good as it did, in my opinion.
Yes. It looked like it was heading somewhere very, very nasty.
Yeah.
And now it's like a little bit of an overpay. Mr. Porter, Curious Mike, meet me over here. They're doubting you, King. Yeah. This is your year. This is you become a 30-point per game scorer this year. Jamal Murray sucks now. He's terrible. Trill has said that he believes in Jamal Murray. I don't. He's Canadian. You can't trust them. You, meanwhile,
no one knows that better than Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah,
you can't trust people who aren't from America,
from this home country. He came to this country. He's trying to take your job, Michael Porter Jr. Don't let him do this.
So, goddamn. So,
yeah.
All right. That one didn't age horribly, but it didn't age particularly well. The deals that also didn't age well from this class: Landry Shamet, 4 years, $43 million. He's not even on an NBA roster right now, but it did have non-guarantees in it, so it made it easier to trade. And then he was able to be waived later. But the instant that contract, I remember the instant that contract was signed, I was like, this is not a good contract at all. Never lived up to it. Was never more than anything than a bench shooter. Has at least played with like 1,000 Hall of Famers in his career.
There are Alan Crabs everywhere for those with eyes to see.
Definitely in that lane for sure.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I'm sorry to do this, Wesley Snipes with the gun, but Robert Williams, 4 years, $48 million. Injuries. He's barely played on this contract. So the Celtics were able to get away with it and trade him before, unfortunately his lower body fell apart, but he's barely played on the deal. It looked like a steal at the time. I mean, we were all like, wow, great deal for the Celtics. He was finally starting to come around. And then the reason why he didn't get paid is just because his body falls apart. Like, he's obviously a good player, but it's just never able was to keep it all together. So
I'd also argue, like, it doesn't hurt you that much. Like $12 million, that's like eighth man money. Like,
yeah, I mean, we just talked about how even if Moody and Kispert suck on those deals, they'll probably be able to be traded at some point. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't kill you unless you're literally not an NBA player. Those kind of deals don't kill you.
Yeah.
So deals that aged well for the teams. Magic, Wendell Carter Jr., 4 years, $50 million. I mean, he also had injuries, but like, that's nothing for a starting center.
Yeah, that's good. That's
$12 million a year for $13 million a year for a starting center. That at the time it seemed like a steal and turned out to be a steal. Mikal Bridges, 4 years, $90 million. Really good contract for the Suns that they eventually traded for Kevin Durant and ruined their team. but the value on the deal was there.
Well, and I don't know, the way he's shooting in the preseason. Are we sure that's a good deal? Are we sure that's a good contract?
Are we sure they did not just trade 6 first-round picks for wing DeAnthony Melton? I've had that one cooking.
I couldn't believe, like, look, I think Mikal Bridges is like a fine player.
Yeah, he's good.
I think it's insane. Simmons and Russillo are guilty of this, and other people too. There is so much indexing going on with like Mikal Bridges in March 2 years ago when he was on the Nets, and like
that fooled a lot of people. I want to say I think we can. If you could go back and check the tapes, I might be wrong on this. I don't think we ever fell for that.
No, I think I think we're innocent. I think we knew better. Yeah. But like I'm sorry, that is not. He does not scale up. I trust Trey Murphy to scale up more than I trust Mikal Bridges. I know technically, I don't know. Fake. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. The contract still was good for the teams that had him on that contract, but certainly a lot of money to pay for, or a lot of pick equity to pay for a guy that tops out is like the 60th best player in the NBA, 50th best player in the NBA. Like, I don't know. It's a lot, but that's wings, baby. Maybe the Mikal Bridges trade is the lot, and the OG Anunoby contract is the logical conclusion to the wing obsessed player thing. I said it was Richeche going number 1, but like, I don't know. Richeche might be a Mikal Bridges level player, and in a bad draft, you'd be fine taking that.
God, I can't let Celtics Matt get away with it. Like, I don't. I need Richeche to be bad. I can't let him. He can't be right about Trump winning and Richeche. Like,
fuck.
Yeah, he's been on that one for a while. I can't let him have both. Like, ugh.
I've been thinking a lot about, because like I did a tweet the other day that was like gut feelings.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with the predictions we've made so far, but like I just have a gut feeling the Heat are going to be much better than we think this year. And I've just had a gut feeling that Trump's going to win for like 7 months. Like, even I got a little bit like swayed to like when they announced Kamala, like, oh, he's done.
Yeah.
But I might have just been like, I think Trump is winning the presidency again.
I think Biden. Here's my only thing is what happens every time is what's funniest.
Yes.
And I like that is history. History bends towards very funny things happening. Trump beating Hillary, hilarious.
Biden not having a working brain and beating Trump.
Yeah.
Also fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Super funny. I think we are heading for I want the funniest possible outcome, which is Trump winning the popular vote by like 1 million votes, but Kamala winning the electoral college is the objectively the funniest outcome. So
that's actually really a really funny outcome. That really would send a faction of this country into full on dementia mode. Like they would inherit Joe Biden's brain if that happened.
I would love, dude. Like, dude, that would them and the Republicans like dismantling the electoral college like because of that would be awesome. That would be so cool.
Jesus Christ. Oh man, that's great. Yeah. But yeah, stay tuned. You'll see. Maybe we should do a stream on election night, which always
like
turn out good.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the cursed Chapo one.
Okay. The Grizzlies, really good deal for them here. Jaren Jackson Jr., 4 years, $105 million.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot that his last contract, I mean, he's still on it technically, but scam deal for the Grizzlies to get him. He won a Defensive Player of the Year on this. Even if it was a little bit Mickey to win a Defensive Player of the Year.
Did he win it, or did the Grizzlies scoring table win it for him?
Either way, he won the award, and it was making like $25 million a year. Like that's $26 million a year. Like that's incredible. Another good one, actually, a nice piece of work by John Horst. We don't say that much. John Horst got Grayson Allen 2 years, $20 million.
Oh, yeah, that's really good. That's nice. Yeah.
And then the Suns turned around and paid him $50 million per year when you factor in the luxury tax. Incredible. Great work by Matt Ishbia. Yeah, it's more like 60 because they extended him at like 17 or 18 million per year. That won't age as well, in my opinion. Okay, so I had one deal in the about right category. He's fluctuated a lot, but Kevin Huerter, 4 years, $85 million or $65 million. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was good at times.
I think he could still outplay that, to be honest. I think I would not be surprised if Kevin Huerter had like a random Grayson Allen year. Yeah. You know,
and he makes $16 million right now, and at one point drastically outplayed that the first year with the Kings.
Yeah,
and then underplayed that this past year. But on the whole, I think it's a fine contract, just about right.
Yeah.
Okay, we move on to the 2019 draft class. Get ready, dude. This is so bad. DeAndre Hunter, 4 years.
This is the Hunter one, right?
4 years, $95 million. Horrible.
That's maybe the worst contract in like the last
it's really bad. And it was also I went back and I checked it. I wish I was harsher on that contract when it was handed out, because he really hadn't done anything in the NBA outside of that one. He had one stretch, I think it was in his second season, where he shot way above his head from mid-range and his defense looked really good, but he was just injured and didn't perform prior to this. And they were coming off of their Eastern Conference Finals run, but he didn't play in half of it. He got hurt.
He's like not good. Like I've never been watching a Hawks game and said, "Oh, look at DeAndre Hunter." I've literally never noticed him.
Yeah,
and it's like I'll go back and look at the box score and I'll be like, "Hunter played 36 minutes. What the fuck?" Like
he's like a worse Tobias Harris, which is like the worst kind of player you can have and pay money to.
He is a Tobias Harris, like straight up. Like anyway.
Yeah, so 4 years, $95 million, horrible contract. They still can't get it off their books right now. Brandon Clark, 4 years, $52 million. I mean, he got injured, and that's just he didn't play for half of it, and I don't know if he ever would have lived up to this. At the time, I thought it was like a bargain to get him for like $13 million. Now it's like whatever.
I think it's like fine. You know, I don't even know if I'd necessarily say it was bad because he just hurt himself. You know, like so. I don't know. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just, that happens.
Nas Little, 4 years, $28 million. Got bought out after the second year of this contract. I think he's on the Heat now on a minimum. I've never seen that before, by the way.
No, you don't get bought out of 2 years left on a $7 million deal. Like that doesn't happen.
insane that at the time I was like, oh yeah, that's fine, I guess. I don't really have an informed Nas Little opinion. But yeah, so gross alert here. Kevin Porter Jr., 4 years, $82 million, but also was NFL style non-guaranteed.
Yeah.
They waived him because of off the court shit, which was always the concern with him anyway. But yeah, gross. Once again, not a single contract here has aged well. RJ Barrett, 4 years, $120 million.
That's because I keep forgetting Hunter is in this thing because RJ is always kind of my punching bag for being bad. He's like bad, but like
he's way better than
but he's like playable. You know what I'm saying? Like he's at least a rotation player in the NBA. His problem is everyone's still treating him like he's.
I was gonna say, I will say this much. At the time when this was signed, I was like, this is way too much based on what he had done so far, right? Yeah. He was in the Jalen Green camp of like, I would have taken it to next offseason.
Yes.
But the Knicks knew they could trade him. And he's actually, because of that little bounce back he had with the Raptors, performed better on this contract than I thought that he would have, even if I'm not a long-term believer. Like, I thought that this was going to be like, you couldn't move it to save your life.
Yeah. I thought it was a Hunter contract. But
yeah. Yeah. And he would have never returned even close to neutral value on this. And there's at least a chance he still does because he's still young and seemingly improved with the Raptors. I don't know. Wings who can't defend are like, I usually stay away from them, but RJ at least has a chance to redeem himself. Darius Garland, 5 years, $193 million. How about this? You can make an argument that every contract, if you consider the fact that Jaws barely played on his extension because of all the injuries and the off the court shit, and then the fact that Zion has barely played because of, I mean, he played more this year, but like has never been healthy in the playoffs. You can make an argument that every single contract from this class was a bad extension that was made before the deadline.
Oh my God. That's all of them right there?
No, we haven't even gotten to so that was 5 years, $193 million for Darius Garland, which, look, he made the All-Star team this year, I think. I think this was his breakout season.
It's probably about right for Darius Garland, is what I would say.
At the time, but like, I mean, we'll see how he bounces back this year, but like, the allegations are still pending. I'll say that much.
Okay.
The allegations are pending for Darius Garland. To get a max contract and to like never be in the All-Star conversation again, potentially after this season, that's a tough look at a minimum. Tyler Hero, 4 years, $130 million.
Woo!
Awesome. We've talked about this one ad nauseum. I don't have to go deeper into it. Jordan Poole, 4 years, $140 million. This is the worst extension class in the history of the NBA.
It's got to be, dude. Like, that's unreal. I keep forgetting, like, Hero and Garland are in there. And then even their good players, like, had, like, varying degrees of internet disaster happen to them in one way or another. Both had video internet things kind of come back to bite them in some way, shape, or form on top of injuries. So, I don't know, man. Like, I think that's rough.
I love how you just described Ja flashing guns on Instagram in the same way as Zion's BBL.
Yes. It's the same.
It's just very, very funny. Internet brain. They came into the league at a time like the years that they were born. It makes sense that they had internet inflicted activities to potentially derail them. But yeah, no, that was just a very funny way of explaining it. And once again, I don't disagree. Garland has more of a chance to redeem himself, but I think if there's anything, I don't even think it's the Cavs' fault, because if you have a guard who's showing progress, who literally made an All-Star team when you extended him during this year, it was the 2021-2022 season. The problem is what I just said about the influx of good guards.
Yeah.
Is that, like, if you were to rank the best guards in the NBA, you'd rank a lot of guys before you got to Darius Garland. And those generally aren't the players that you want to pay if you're a team. It's not to say that Darius Garland's bad. He's been very good in the NBA before. But it's also, he's got to have a bounce back year in order to justify paying him a max contract when there's so many good guards in the NBA as it is. So that's just kind of my point in that. And then the last one here, the 2022 draft or the 2020 draft class, which is LaMelo Ball max, 5 years, 260 potentially. Yikes. Could be a yikes. But if he's healthy, could not be a yikes. TBA, pending. Obviously, Hallie and Ant have lived up to their maxes that they got at this point. I don't think that those turn out to be that bad. Desmond Bane, 5 years, 207 million. I think that's like fine for him.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's good.
I think Bane's a good compliment. Like, we talk about the fact that we just said with Darius Garland, like the fact this influx of good guards. Bane's a little bit bigger. He can at least pass sometimes as a 3. He's more of a 2. Elite shooter, pretty good defender, solid defender at least. I think that he will prove to be more worth it when the team is good next year. And he is more of the second or third option on this team as opposed to how overtasked he was as the first option last year. Devin Vassell, 5 years, 146 million. You're not a Vassell guy.
I know what you want me to say. I can't bring myself to say it. We'll see.
29 million a year for Devin Vassell. I think it's fine. I still think it's fine. I thought it was fine at the time. I still think it's fine. He's injured to start the year. That's not great.
I feel a lot better about giving Jalen Suggs $30 million a year than I did Devin Vassell.
That's fair. I'm still like, he's a very good shooter. He's a very good finisher.
He's a wing.
He's wingish. He's fine. He's fine. I'm not crazy about it, but I'm also not like this is detrimental to their team because he's still their second best player.
Yeah, no, I mean that is true.
That's more an indictment of
objectively true.
Yeah. That's more of an indictment of how little talent that they have right now.
Yes.
But the hope for him long term is that he can be that third guy on this team. I've always compared him to Chris Middleton as like a high-end outcome for him. And like maybe he can get there, maybe he won't. I don't know. Jaden McDaniels, by the way, aged like milk, I think. When this was signed, I was like, this could be a steal. 5 years, 136 million. I've kind of reversed track on this one a little bit.
Yeah.
Like he's good. And once again, wings get paid. I get it. But 5 years, 136 million. So that's 27, 28 a year. It's a possibility that we overrated how his offense would progress because his offense has not really progressed at all.
And he can't guard like beefy, like he can't guard forwards really.
He's a guard. He's mainly a guard defender. Yeah.
He's like a guard and like slender 3 defender.
It's like Mikal Bridges basically on defense.
Like he's not like the lockdown like wing. You need a beefy guy, and he is not a beefy guy. And when you're not beefy and you can't like you're not like a lights out offensive guy either. I don't know. That's tough. That's tough. So
yeah, I mean we'll see. I don't know. It's it hasn't the return on value, like he made all defense team. The return on value has probably been about what you would expect so far, but now it's starting to open up this upcoming year and has potential to age kind of poorly, to be honest. And I think that I was the most wrong on this one so far. Okongwu, 4 years, 62 million. I was going to say, I was never crazy about this deal. I thought it made sense for both sides. I thought that NBA Twitter was hyping up Okongwu way too much.
I got tricked. I'll hand up on this one. I was like, yeah, great deal. And then once I started watching Okongwu regularly, I'm like, oh no, he's bad.
We'll see this season. We'll see. He's still got a chance. Okay. He's still got a chance, but I'm definitely way lower on him.
Steve Kornacki. I've seen enough. I watched enough Hawks. I'm
out.
Yeah, if he wants to own me, that's fine. I'm calling it. The race is over.
Next one, Denny Avdia, 4 years, 55 million. He's already been traded on it. But
oh God, it's Wasserman. Fuck. So I made that mistake online too.
I know. Yeah. It is Dave Wasserman who says I've seen enough. You're so washed, dude.
Fuck, I suck.
But yeah, Denny Avdia, 4 years, $55 million. He's going to return positive value. I think at the time, I remember saying I got it, but I also didn't believe in his shooting, and he shot well last year.
Yeah.
So this is probably the one that I was the most wrong about in the other direction. Like, he's very obviously going to return positive value on this contract for the Blazers now. Yeah. And he got a very good return for him. Like, they got the Bub Carrington pick, Malcolm Brogdon, and then a future pick out of it. So turned out to be great for the Wizards. Like, at the time, I think people said they're signing this to trade him, and they were completely right. So
yes.
And then the last two here, another guy who got traded, funny enough, Josh Green, 3 years, $41 million. Damn, I took a beating on this class because I like this extension for the Mavs at the time, and they already traded him. We'll see if he can rebound on the Hornets, but like, I don't know. We're going into year 5 with Josh Green. Like, at a certain point, can you just do something? Like, can you be good for an extended period of time, Josh Green, please? I've always kind of liked Josh Green as like a potential nice role player, but like, he just hasn't done enough, and he can't justify 3 years, $41 million if he isn't just consistently pretty good. So, I turned out to be pretty wrong. And then the last one, I think we both agree is fine at the time, and is fine now, is Cole Anthony, 3 years, $39 million. Yeah. $13 million a year for Cole Anthony.
I have a soft spot for Cole Anthony. I think he's like a fun 6-man, like, and I kind of like him.
Yeah, so I think this is a fine contract. I don't. Once again, if you make anything less than $15 million a year, you have to basically not be an NBA player for me to think that it's like a crazy contract. Yeah.
Like a bad deal,
yeah. So, all right. Anything else we want to say? Well, tomorrow night, Tuesday, baby, opening night, streaming, ball. Watch the game with us on playback.
I will be watching my beloved Boston Celtics. Do you know what the second game is? Did you see this?
It's Wolves Lakers, right?
Why the fuck are the Lakers on opening night? That's crazy.
Why did the WNBA finals get rigged for the Liberty to win? Why did the Lynx get hosed at the end of last night? Money.
I guess, but like, you can't, like, you couldn't put like Houston in there, or like the Warriors. You couldn't even put the Warriors in there. Like, I don't know. Like,
Warriors, I would get. I mean, LA's still the king, though, dude. Like, they're gonna have the marquee franchises on opening night. Like, the Lakers are a marquee franchise. I don't agree with it. I don't want to watch them. But they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and they're the Lakers.
It's like the Mavericks. You have the Nuggets. You have so many other like ways you can go with that, and just fucking putting.
I would have loved to see Wolves Nuggets rematch for sure. Or even honestly, Wolves Mavs conference finals.
Yeah.
Markets.
It's pretty disrespectful to the Mavs. Like, I think it was a little Mickey Mouse them like making the finals. It's pretty disrespectful to not have the finals team playing like opening day. I think that's fucked
and
up.
Also they have Luka Doncic.
Yeah, like it's not like they don't. Luka Doncic, who's like better than both LeBron and Anthony Davis, like right now. Like,
if I remember correctly, I don't think the Heat opened up on opening night either time after they won. They made it to the finals.
All right, never mind. It's good actually. It's good to do that too.
I've pivoted in the other direction.
It's good to do that to losers who don't win the NBA finals because they suck.
So I'll be back for Sixers opening night on Wednesday against the Bucks. We'll see who actually plays in that. And then I'll also be back we'll be back later in the week with the Patreon episode. We'll do our yearly overreactions to the first week of games. So let's get it. This is going to be an awesome. I'm very excited for the season. Once again, New Orleans trip. Don't forget, link is in the description. Check that out if you haven't already. We're going to have an awesome weekend down in New Orleans this season. A lot of exciting things coming up, folks.
Let's go.
We're very, very excited.
This is your chance to assassinate me. So don't miss.
Let's get it.
You can whistle "The Cheese Stands Alone" and come up on me like in The Wire.
Peace.
Peace.